your girl Ann. Okay. And yeah, I am just like doing my little baby setup, so I'll actually have video this time. Yeah, so I'm already sweating. Sometimes you could just sweat. I'm patting my nose right now for those that aren't looking at the visual part, which I know is almost all of you. How do I know that? Because I went and looked at my YouTube and I only had one subscriber, my partner. Okay. And I can't subscribe to myself because it's me. Okay. But I'm going to get her going. I'm going to get her cracking. I'm going to get her going. But don't worry, and I'm going to give y'all opportunities. And for those that are my friends, I will be badgering you. And I'll put up a link. I'll put a link to my YouTube in the show notes. Okay. Alrighty. So we back, girl. We back. We bike. And right now, this episode is called Dog Walks, Diet Culture, and Climate Change, okay? There will be a little WNBA in here too, but let's just get into it. Okay, first of all, it has definitely been a while, okay? It's been a little over a month, all right? Now, why? Also, I want you all to know that are watching, my floor is uneven, so I will just inadvertently slide to the right. You know, very cha-cha slide. But where have I been? What have I been doing? So I've been in physical therapy. I have been within the zone of physical therapy. And it's really something. I took my little poodle puffs down. So for those that are looking at the video, you can see I have grown my hair back. It took 2 years, but I got some hair amongst my head. However, child, I'm also losing hair, so my hair in the front is thinning, which I have watched quite a few girlfriends go through. Most of them are not black. I haven't seen any of my friends have this, but yeah, it's coming. It's coming even for the black girls, girl. I got them bobby pin right now, but the 3 little twists I have in the front, whew, they just some little sprigs. They just sprigging out. Okay, so there's that. So I've been in physical therapy, which has been really hard, not easy. I love the people that go there and my physical therapist and all that, but it is woo. Okay, I'm working on my glutes, working on my hip flexor. It is, wow, a lot. And things are not healing. So there's that. Do I believe physical therapy works? Yes. Is it slow going? Yes, especially in your 40s. Because I have done physical therapy before for different injuries, but this one is wow. So it's my hip flexor. Do not offer me any advice. As many of you may know, I used to be on the track team. I did not run on the track team. I did shot, put, and discus. You're welcome, okay? But we did everybody had to do running workouts. So I learned to run from that and stretch and blah, 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 whatever. So there's those things. So going to physical therapy is great, but I still have these little aches and pains. I've gotten some more orthopedic style shoes. I've gotten one of the most supportive New Balances. It's the 1540. Yeah. Because I overpronate. So that's helping, but it's also just like, it's really hard. It's really hard. Getting older is like not easy. It is not for the faint of heart. Oh yeah, and these are my reading glasses. Yeah, get into it. Okay, so there are those things. The other thing that happened is that, well, I took my little poodle puffies down, so that's how I have my hair in twists now. And I saw Meg the Stallion live here in Chicago. Yes, I'm a hottie. Also, I burned my underarm. So very odd. Apparently you can develop an allergy to your deodorant. Yeah, so I just went and put my deodorant on one day, and it was after my mammogram, so I wonder if it was like because of the little small amount of radiation you're exposed to, or it could be just a quinky dink, because you're not supposed to put on any lotions or deodorant or anything with scent before you go to get your mammogram. So I showered down, didn't put any lotion on, which is very hard for me as I am an all-day lotioner. I'm a lotion this whole body, okay? That's in my blood. But didn't do it. Then the next day I was in the house, so I didn't put on deodorant, and then it was the Wednesday, because I had the mammogram on Monday. Wednesday night, I was like, I ain't put on deodorant, let me go put some on. And I use a strong deodorant. I use Lady Mitchum. Child, the stuff done burnt me. So for people that are looking at the video, you can see, and yes, my underarms are hairy. Hello, feminism. But here up top and there, you can see where I exactly swiped the deodorant, and it burnt me. On this underarm, it's not as bad, but you can see this little small burnt part. Yeah, the deodorant, it had just burnt it in me. So I had it on for like 5 minutes, and I was like, what is going on? It felt like razor blades under my arms. And so then I sat there for 5 minutes. I was in the bathroom looking at my phone, holding on to the sink. That's how much it hurt. And I said, okay, I'm just gonna wipe this off. So I just went and got my washcloth and soaped her up and wiped her off, okay? Absolutely not to your deodorant burning you. And absolutely not, I got that from Heather McMahon. I've been listening to her podcast lately. It's interesting. It's a goodie, okay? It's a goodie. Anywho, yeah, and these burns are literally from 5 minutes of wearing the deodorant, because me and my partner were watching something, and it was like a break, and so I went and put the deodorant on, and I was like, my underarms are burning. I like to hiss like a cat sometimes. So anyhow, my underarms are discolored. Fortunately, the next week I already had an appointment at the dermatologist, so I went there and talked with them about it. But I was like, great. They were like, yeah, it can happen. Don't use that deodorant again. I was like, okay, all right, I will do that. Sometimes it's like people really be thinking like science has like solved all these problems and they know exactly why things happen. They literally don't. They literally don't. They're just like, don't do it. If the deodorant burned my arm off, then we're talking, let's get in there. But it just burnt the skin. It just burnt the skin. I was just trying to get that little swipe over there, child. Anyway, so yeah, basically I had an eczema type reaction, a very quick, okay, bout of dermatitis that literally burned. Okay, let me put my arm down. This is ridiculous. Okay, the other thing that has happened in my life is that I had to dump a friend. You guys remember? I was dumped by a friend, and then I had to dump somebody. And this is somebody I met back in the fall, but it happened recently. Basically, the long and short of it is like, I can't have no friends that's invested in chaos. Like, if you see a choice between like, here's something regular to do, and here's something that is a chaotic bad, and you are constantly choosing that, like, we can't hang out. We just can't. I'm not for that. Also, I'm almost 50. Like, I can always be asleep, okay? I can always be resting myself in my little loins, okay? So I don't need none of that. Here goes some of my other observations. Okay, so I'm in physical therapy, and child, I've just been on this winding road of hip and foot pain, because also I have been feeling so good from the physical therapy. I've been walking around barefoot, which I usually wear kind of like house slippers, but supportive. Child, I'm gonna show it to y'all. Those of y'all that's on the video, you can see, you'll see my house shoes gotta bend down. They are these Merrells, the Jungle Mock, and I have a little super feet in them. So I wear those around the house just to give me some stability and support my little archies, because I hurt my foot about 5 years ago. And then, you know, I have sciatica. So some days it just means like every step is like of pain, okay? It literally will feel like just a little small knife just stabbing you in the back, just like So you can see why I would choose to wear house shoes sometimes, because I like to be mobile. I like to walk around and live my life, okay? So basically, you know, I'm at the part of perimenopause where my body is just breaking down. It seems to me, I have a few friends that are willing to admit that they are in or have gone through menopause. Let's give it up for them. Let's give it up for them. But I have a lot of friends that are basically, I don't know if they're just not in menopause or they just don't want to talk about any of the things happening. For me, it has been like really almost a second puberty, but worse, because there's not a lot of books on it. There are some, they're coming out, but whew. And I am gonna get Christine Northrup's book, probably get an electronic version, because girl. Anywho, there is becoming more information, but part of it, the majority of it that I'm seeing is people that are going through it at that time. And it's like, well, I kind of want answers. I do want to commiserate, but I also want answers. Okay, I want the answers, Sway. Now, what I have to also accept as a human being is that there are no easy answers. They just said, well, women, y'all going through this, you'll make it. It's like, well, what if I don't? But what if I don't? So basically, menopause is when your ovaries and your uterus shut down. They're saying no more. Your uterus is still doing its doing its job, but you're spitting out less eggs, maybe more eggs. You have ovulations without eggs. For those that are born with ovaries, fallopian tubes, and uteruses. Not everybody got that, but also if you are taking any kind of hormone replacement, you will have some of these same feelings. And for me, I know that I'm still on a birth control, which is interesting. I definitely know that it is helpful. But some of the things I didn't know about menopause were that, yeah, you're just gonna feel achier everywhere all the time. And for those that are like, well, it's not that big of a deal, think about every single injury that you've had screaming out at the same time. And you got to go to work, you got to go to school. That's what it is. And then things that you thought were fine and you don't even think about are now joining the party. Okay, they're joining the party. So the long and short of that is that my body is just breaking down. Okay, it don't want to do stuff, and it definitely don't want to do nothing like it did back in the 90s. Okay, so yeah, it's a mess. And then one thing I do really like about going to physical therapy, besides, you know, the physical therapists are really nice, it's very gay, I'm always trying to make everybody a WNBA fan, is that everybody that walks through that door is in pain and they are looking for relief, okay? So that's what I like. It's like we're all in there suffering together, trying to get these. And my physical therapy place is like one big room. There's like beds on one side and then there's just like a big open space. So it's like you're just seeing people in all kinds of different pains, and sometimes it mirrors yours, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you can just have a little knowing glance with somebody, and sometimes I'll just say, when I see people doing the same exercises I've done, I'll be like, girl, it hurt, don't it? It do. That my booty burning. I'm doing a lot of glute stuff because my injury is in my hip. Yay! So yeah, I really enjoy that. The only other place I can imagine where people show up and everybody's just in pain is like a funeral home. And like one person is dead, everybody else like in emotional pain, but they might also be in physical pain. So I'm hoping that when menopause, once I've fully paused, maybe some of this will dissipate. I don't know. And unfortunately, the studies definitely say that in the US, menopause is harder for women of color, particularly for Black and Latino women. We report, and this is with us going to the doctor less than white women, we report more aches, more pains, hot flashes for a longer duration. So some women have been on hormone replacement or other kinds of therapies for hot flashes for 10 years, Black women. Oh God, 10 years? Can you imagine? I can't imagine going through this for 10 years. I'm sure it could last that long, but I'm like, if it stays like this, And I told you all that I got my ADHD diagnosis like during the pandemic and all that. And part of that, now I'm thinking, it was probably the menopause. I probably have always had it, but just noticing certain things in my brain not firing in the way that I'm used to was happening, and it was probably due to the fluctuations of estrogen and progesterone in my body. And estrogen and progesterone, they're not just like sex hormones. They are that girl, okay? They do a lot of regulation. They're talking to the brain. They're talking to the pituitary. They're keeping things going. So I'm definitely on a rocky road in my menopause, but we'll see what happens, girl, in my perimenopause, because I have not paused for a whole year yet. So can't wait to, though. You know? So anyways, you know, and then back to the physical therapy, it's not as much of a downer as a funeral home, because everybody that steps in there is trying to get better. Like, you don't go to physical therapy because you're just like, this is fine. Some people do go because they're mandated to go, but a lot of people go because they're like, I need help and I would like to try this way, in addition to some drugs or accompanying other kinds of therapies. But it's definitely, it exists and it's out there. And for anyone that is like on the fence, like their doctor's like, go to physical therapy, blah, 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 no. Well, let me tell you something that might make you want to go. Usually you get a massage in the beginning. It's really nice. Like, and it's somebody that knows what they're doing. So they have talked and with other people about how to get the right amount of pressure on this thing. And it's like, ooh. So anyhow, physical therapy to me is mother. Okay, it's mother, and that's all I have to say. Another one, another little topic. Girl, Oprah. She finally realized she was part of the problem. The problem of diet culture, okay? I'm just like, woo, girl, go listen to Maintenance Phase or something, because you have been a part of something so bad, and at times you've been the leader of it. I grew up watching Oprah Winfrey. I attribute a lot of my my mental health to her. I grew up in a family that was, a lot of chaos when I was young. And so I would watch her every afternoon wrapped. I didn't totally understand what was going on, but I was just like happy to be there. And I was like, ooh, we crying about something, let's cry. But I did get from it like, okay, you have to like get your feelings out. You need to be honest with people, be honest with yourself. Like, I learned so many lessons from her. But, you know, looking back and having a feminist lens, it's like, yeah, girl, you was the problem. Like, life is not better because you're in a smaller jean size. And it's really sad, and you're going to hear me say this a million times about all kinds of people. I thought Oprah kind of got like, you're literally a revolutionary force in this world. Just to be a dark-skinned, fat black woman that people listen to, that's not happening all the time. So it's like, come on, girl, get us together. But she can't even get herself together, y'all. It's like, wow. And she down to the Ozempia, which I do not shame anyone who is using that. However, there just needs to be some tempering. And also with Oprah, it's like, yeah, you do kind of people-oriented journalism, but we still think of you, I still think of her as a journalist. Like, in order to be a journalist, like, and to report on things, you need to be operating from truth. There's a siren. Now it's gone. I hope everybody's doing well. But yeah, Oprah did her little Ozempic thing, and her Ozempic special, and it's like, I'm a part of the problem. It's like, yeah, and you still are. You are a billionaire who gets her books rebound in white and cream leather for her study. And you're thinking that success is a pant size? You grow cabbages bigger than my head, and you're like, well, once I get thin, and also, like, no offense, you're in your 60s. We can't be chunky and happy in our 60s for those of us that have the proclivity to be chunky. And not to say like, if it's for mobility or whatever reasons people be trying to invent, do whatever you want for your life. but do not invest in a company that engages in weight shaming to make money and then, you know, she gave her stocks to the National African American History Museum that is down there as a portion of the Smithsonian now. I mean, all they gonna do is sell it. They might hold on to it or whatever, but it's just like, this is bad. Like, and don't make them invested in it too. Ugh. Anyhow, so yeah, in the time that I moved to Chicago, Oprah has ridden the ride of getting on Weight Watchers, buying into Weight Watchers, doing Weight Watchers commercials, and now has given her shares away because now she done got on Ozempic, which they are now also prescribing. It's a mess. It's a mess out here. And also, we should all be, as humans, like, allowed to occupy our bodies however we want without these standards. It's a hot mess. It's one big old hot mess. All right, let me leave that and go to somebody worse, who's doing worse. And his name is Harrison Butker. He is a kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs. So that means he's won 2 Super Bowls, and I could care less, okay? He gave a commencement address where he basically encouraged the audience, particularly the women in the audience, basically to go make a sandwich. He said, go make a sandwich, girl. He said that a woman's real place is in the home and her real job is to take care of a family. Woo, my God in heaven. I can't believe they still making men like this. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? He went to a college commencement. And just in case you all don't know, the enrollment at colleges is over half women at most colleges. And within the sciences, biology is over half women. Ooh. But it was a Catholic university, so I can't vouch for nothing that goes on there. However, it's like, why does he believe that people that are perceived as female, the only thing they have to offer this planet is care for children? But we also have so many women that have contributed to science, industry, culture, politics, dance, food science, ornithology. And here you go. Talking about, yeah, girl, you know what you need to do? Be at the home. And when you accept that calling, gross. Also, I'm like, y'all didn't ask him to send his speech in like a week before so you could put it on teleprompter, and also tell him this is trash, we don't want this. Also, what knowledge does a kicker have to give to a class of graduates? Like, what? No offense to kickers, but absolutely not. There's at least 20 different types of jobs that I'm going to pick before a kicker in the NFL, okay? To give a commencement speech in the year 20 and 24, okay? Absolutely not. Also, I just want to clear this up for anyone who thinks, oh, Harrison may have some blanks. Nobody there was majoring in homemaker. Okay, most universities, even Catholic, they don't have home economics. Joe, that's not a part of working. Oh my Lord, in Jesus' name. Anyhow, so there's that. One, they're not majoring in homemaking, so it's just totally inappropriate. Numero dos is that most women in America work. This fantasy that women can stay home. Yes, there are stay-at-home mothers. Is that the majority of people in America? Absolutely not, because most American families need 2 incomes to make it. But that has not stopped us from culturally just dogging women about childcare. Someone old yeller me, because it's like we living in the Old Testament and with 5G at the same time. It's confusing to me and my homegirls, okay? There are just very few people that have the privilege of being home full time. And we know that it's a privilege because people can't afford it, okay? They cannot afford it. So if you want to do that, if that is your life goal, you have your North Star, Harrison Butker. For everybody else, let's move about the cabin, because wow. And also, it's just like, Okay, I was just thinking, like, just sitting here meditating on women in science, and I was like, okay, but what about Marie Curie? Like, did you think she should be in hell? Her and her husband was out there doing stuff and figuring out radiation and how we can actually look in human bodies. So, should she have been at the house? Or we should have waited, and then she should have gone home and stuff. I mean, I just don't even get it. And then also, just like, yeah, so there's that. I can't, I won't. Okay, now here's a bad topic. American colleges. They sent the police in to destroy pro-Palestinian encampments. Once again, I just have to say America's on the wrong side of history. They labeled these kids as anti-Semitic. They said there were terroristic threats. Nancy Pelosi and Hillary Clinton have both said that this is China and Russia, and that the children of the United States have been radicalized by the internet. So they really think that Hamas and China are like sending messages to children on TikTok to care about Palestinians. How asinine is that? And that's again why I say white women are never going to save us. Not in any Western society. That's just not going to happen, okay? They in no way can take into account that people are looking at social media that is giving them direct accounts of what is happening on the ground in Gaza, and that they feel empathy, compassion for these people, and do not want their literal tax dollars to be funding a war that is killing people at a clip that is faster than we've seen in my lifetime, okay? In my lifetime. So there's that. If you want to get into like following folks that are on the ground or previously were on the ground, I would suggest Bizan, and her Instagram handle is Wizard Bizan, and Bizan is spelled B-I-S-A-N. Also, I'm tuning into Al Jazeera English like almost every morning, and they have cameras on the ground, even though they have been banned from their offices in Israel. And of course, I am for a ceasefire right now, okay? There are so many connections, and even if there weren't connections between the struggle that African Americans have faced and the struggle that Palestinians have faced, we do definitely understand that our struggles are connected now, okay? And not to say that's the only reason to care, but it is a reason to care. The over-policing, the indiscriminate killing, the taking people as prisoners, keeping them in a separate area where they have a different kind of identification. They have to ask permission to travel and to move about their own homeland. Now, I will say African Americans, this is not our homeland. This is the indigenous people's homeland. But we can see a lot of that treatment is mirrored in the Palestine-Israel war that is going on. The war against Hamas that is a genocide on the Palestinian people. So yeah, and we don't need to turn away from that. We also need to be paying attention to Sudan, to the Congo. These are places that the devices that I'm using need elements from those countries, and therefore art thou. Western countries are basically turning away from getting into the civil wars, the political disarray that is going. And I even saw an article just a week or two ago saying that the U.S. is going to lessen the sanctions on Sudan so that they can get more of their whatever metals out. I'm just like, God damn. And that's the other part. You know, there's plenty of people that talk about this, and it was even in Black Panther. It's like, for y'all to say that we ain't got no culture, y'all sure do have a lot of stuff. You need to get out of Africa, okay? And it is still happening today. Yeah, and then even Darfur is back doing poorly again. And that was a big campaign, like in the early part of the 20th century, that America was so embarrassed that it didn't do anything about Darfur and didn't intervene in the late 90s and early 2000s. And it's like, we doing the same thing again. Anyhow, so there's that. It's about to get more depressing. Yay! And that's one of the reasons why I'd be like, oh, yeah, I want to do this or not, because it's like, I just be talking about all this depressing ass shit. But I think it's important for people to like have this perspective and to hear from a Black woman, a Black feminist. Oh, also, I've noticed on Instagram, there's a real boom in our womanist population, which I'm not against it. But it feels to me like some of them have done some very shallow readings. And I do understand, of course, the suffragette situation, but it's like, girl. Yeah, the label of womanist is not gonna save us from the patriarchy that we feel from Black men. It's also really not doing a lot of work, even though that's what it was intended to do, around the liberation of queer Black people. And of course, there are individual womanists that are for that, but that does not mean that people working under that label are doing that work, particularly in the academy. So yeah, get into it or get out of it, whatever. As long as you're working towards social justice, I'm with you. However, it be given that the girls read like 2 chapters of feminism and then they had put her down. They was like, I am not a feminist, girl. I am a womanist, and hear me roar. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, I got something that's gonna fix all your problems. And I will say, like, being a former academic, how I really know when people are academics or not, sometimes, not all the time, is the certainty that they speak with. Like this idea that like there are these full ass, complete ass answers like happening in the academy. Whoa, that's misguided. You ain't spent that much time there. It's like we're working towards something. And that's pretty much it. There's very few things that we can say with like certainty. Those few things that that academics do say with certainty, it feels like don't nobody be listening to. And then you can just look at, you know, the over 70 years of serious research into race relations, and you can see we have a society sitting on top of that, and they don't care a lick about the things that that early researchers and current researchers care about, like not even one lick. Okay, and they're constantly battling us in the courts and winning. That white man who is against affirmative action and has sued that woman who wanted to just give loans to Black women who want to start businesses, because they said like that's the real racism, is having a race exclusionary program. It's like, wait, what? This place is woo. And I will say there are so many ways that the conservative justices, conservative lawyers, the way that they are using this system to get what they want. Yeah, that was also built into the founder's mission. You know what I mean? Like, but also some of the things that we've allowed to happen in the 20th and 21st centuries, particularly around money being speech and having these very large groups of lobbyists that are basically vultures on our tax dollars. Like, it's a mess. It's a mess out here. And even though I do have a microphone, I don't have the microphone. I don't have the big one. And then people that do, Kamala Harris, Lord, in Jesus' name, that's my soror. But girl, they basically just got her out here smiling at Black people, glad-handing, and hosting events. Like, no policy, no real discussion. She had that one discussion with Dr. Jackie. Absolutely not. Y'all just go talk from your own whatever. Then we found out Dr. Jackie from Married to Medicine, so anti-Black, anti-poor, you know, very classist. We got to do something about that. It's like, Dr. Jackie, you knew you wasn't the person to talk about maternal mortality disparity rates. Absolutely not. So why did Kamala call you? And why did you take the call? Why didn't you refer her to someone who actually does that research? There's plenty in the Atlanta area. So it's like, it just be giving. Anyways, let me get on to the news, because this is related to presidential type figures. One, Trump got convicted on 34 counts. Okay, now, the trial has been going on. I've been trying to keep up with it and read some of the articles coming out of it. Some of it I was like, girl, I don't care. I done heard Michael Cohen so many times and on podcasts, even on his own. I done heard Stormy Daniels. I'm supporting her on For the Love of Delphs, which you got to get Apple TV and then Out TV, and then you can select it and see it. See, that's how gay people, that's how you know we still oppressed. We got to go through two different things to get to our little funny programs, okay? While Vanderpump Rules, just as foolish, is sitting up there right on the television. And you can get to it. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Anyhow, so one of the things in the beginning of the trial that really caught my eye, and I was like, woo! But there was so much else going on, particularly the Diddy stuff coming back out and the Cassie video and all of that. And anybody who's like still caping for Diddy, for anybody who's not black, caping means like you putting on your cape to try to save this man. Absolutely not. You need to really think deeply about your investments in girl party music. And girl, let it go. Even his own artist would not piss on him if he was on fire. That's how bad he did them. And I watched Making the Band almost all the seasons. I was like, this is so much. It's like, yeah, I can fully imagine him as abusive because I watched the shows. Anyhow, let me leave that alone. What got my attention about the Trump trial in the beginning was that the former editor of the National Enquirer was there, and he admitted to fixing stories for Trump, particularly using a phrase that people are more familiar with now is called catch and kill. And that phrase was made popular, or it's been out in the public discourse because of Rowan Farrow, because that's what he called his book. That was about Harvey Weinstein and getting that story and all that stuff. I'm not going into all that, but get into it. There was also two women researchers at a different paper, and they were going after the same stuff, and they actually, their book is called She Said, and they made a little HBO movie about it, so you can go watch that if you don't feel like reading the book. But basically, the catch and kill is when you pay for a story and then you kill it. So you pay for the exclusive rights to this person, and then you say, well, girl, I'm not gonna run that. Okay, I'm not gonna run that. And that's what he wanted to have done with Stormy Daniels' story, because of course, when this news came out, he was still a candidate. It doesn't look good, particularly if you're trying to run as like the face of family values, which, wow, the people that believe that from him, I'm like, dang, what y'all on? Because I want to believe it too. This man got kids from affairs standing up there on the stage with him. What are y'all thinking? Family values? Where? Okay, so there's the affairs that he denied. He denied. Anywho, let me leave that alone. So yeah, this man got up there and said, yeah, we did some catch and kill for him. Basically, they took that Stormy Daniels and anything else that was negative, and he would call them and talk with them about that, like take it down, don't broadcast it, and they would amplify fake stories by his opponents. So there was one story where they had Ted Cruz's dad photoshopped into a picture with Lee Harvey Oswald when he was handing out communist literature in New Orleans. And they said this happened a week before he shot JFK. I guess I should have said trigger warning, but y'all get it, okay? And it's like, wait, what? So they ran with that. There was another fake story about Marco Rubio. And of course, Michael Cohen was there to give his testimony about how they were doing their funny accounting to keep track of all this and to get himself and Stormy paid for fixing this situation. Michael Cohen gave his testimony. He was cross-examined. Stormy Daniels had to get up there, and they asked her about their sexual encounter, and she had to answer. And then Michael Cohen, he gave his testimony. The question for the prosecution was, are people going to believe Michael Cohen because he's an admitted liar who's gone to jail for lies about this, right? So it's like the whole American public pretty much knows that it did in fact happen. The question about how this was paid, how it was accounted for was the question. And so, yeah, the jury went out, and within 2 days, they came back with a conviction on every count, which was 34. Yeah, and Trump did not take the stand. So, yeah, that's where we are. And the trial, all of his other criminal trials, are postponed until after the election. And of course, after the conviction, he said this was about the Democrats wanting to win. This is election interference. It's just like, wow, 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 wow. So he has trials set in the future in Atlanta and in Arizona over the election tampering and their harassment of election workers. It's just really sad because those people that had their lives destroyed based on lies that were told on Trump's behalf and by Trump to his supporters, it's just really sad. And I do want people to understand, like, justice is so slow for marginalized people. Now, 2 of the election workers did sue Rudy Giuliani, and they did get a judgment against him for like over $100 million. Now, Rudy Giuliani is crying that he's broke. He is broke or dead. But what he actually has is a super PAC, and he uses that money is for his legal defense. And it is a lot of rich people that supported him and Trump. And he uses that money for his legal defense and for his team. What I think, this is alleged, to hide the money that he has left. He has not even made any kind of a good faith down payment. And he's also filing for bankruptcy at the same time to slow down the collection. And I do want y'all to know that the 2 women that he has the initial judgment for are both Black women. I hope they see some of the money, but I really, truly doubt it. I just realized this thing was like really in the camera. It's a little pink puffy thing. But look, a little flag. Oh, hey, it's Pride Month. Hey, girls. Okay, so there's that. Also, we got a genocide going on in Gaza, so do what you can to stop it from your little place of influence. If that means posting on your social media, if it means going to protest, go on and do that. Do whatever you feel safe doing. But at this time, like, history is not going to remember Americans well. We are literally funding this. We just paid our taxes on April 15th. So where y'all thought they got the money from? They got it from us, okay? Yeah, it's tough. So here's my advice. You're like, what? Again, protest, divest, study peace, and remember, empires fall and humans persist. Now, the climate change is going to get us eventually, but that's a different story I'm about to get into right now. But the empire, it can end. These empires in Western culture, they definitely can end, and we can exist as human beings in the world as we do now, but not with all the constraints of money being divested from, like all of these things. So there's that. Okay, back around to climate change, child. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry about the planet, okay? And I'm sitting up in here, I ain't got no air on, so I can try to give y'all some good sound quality, which is not my forte. But, yeah. So, what's going on? I'm trying to not be such a climate pessimist, but it's tough because everything is terrible. Okay, and everything, you got to be informed about what's happening in the world and what's happening in the ocean too, okay? The times are rough because why? The ocean is warming. So my partner and I started watching this YouTube, and it's based on like climate and transportation. Basically, this man goes around to different major cities in the world and tries to understand like how climate friendly is the transportation. Like, is it walkable? Is it bikeable? is it accessible, okay, by wheelchair? And so he is interested in what is the infrastructure that exists. He's also interested in what are people doing in the future, okay, in the future, to what are their plans to make cities more navigable without cars. So he's interested in all of those things. So he literally will go to different cities, bike around, see if he can get lunch on his bike. Can he make it from the airport to wherever he's staying in some kind of climate friendly way? If not, he will, you know, get into Uber. But, you know, he's trying to assess. And then because his content is thought of as political, he is demonetized on YouTube. So he has a Patreon. He also announces little Patreons, and you can join, and it helps him to continue to do this work. And his channel is explicitly anti-cars, explicitly anti-cars. And I was like, And so it just got me thinking deeply about how I transport my body around. I definitely have a car. I definitely use it. Not every day. And then, girl, I do be trying to rent bikes, you know, using this little divvy because my bike is trash at this time. I need a new bike. And girl, I'm so tired of divvy. I'm so tired of these apps, how they try to overcharge you. And then also, like, but I do want us to like be thinking about how can we be involved and try to help, okay, engage with our local government so that when there are changes, that when they make them, they are more climate friendly, not client friendly, climate friendly. So yeah, those are some of the things. We just recently got like a protected bike lane on part of Clark Street and Ashland, so that's really nice. But overall, you can ride a bike around Chicago, but you are just in a pickle. You're in a pickle, because sometimes the traffic is fine. Other times people are very, very angry. And there are plenty of people that just don't know how to share the road and don't want to. They do not think bikes should be there. And I will say sometimes I'm that person. Why? Because a lot of people that use bikes in this city do not abide by traffic laws, and they do little things sometimes to not have to stop their bike so they can get through the intersection. And it's dangerous. It's a dangerous game that some of them are out there playing, but overall it is better for the planet and less heat is being produced when we transport ourselves using our own bodies or a device that does not use climate created energy rather than our own sort of human energy. Now, of course, for people that are disabled, yeah, jump up on your car. I'm not saying like figure out how to ride a bike or like buy a $3,000 bike so that you could feel safe on it. No, not at all. But for those of us that are ambulatory, get out there. And if you don't live in a safe neighborhood, you know, start engaging in Chicago, at least with your alderman, your alderperson, your mayor, those kinds of folks, so that, you know, you can be encouraging safety, security, sidewalks, wherever it is you live, okay? So there's that. Also, more climate news, girl. It ain't getting cooler. It's getting hotter. Alrighty, it's getting hotter. So I have been looking. There's been a few new climate reports. One from the National Atmospheric and Oceanic Association, just saying that because of rising temperatures, that hurricane season will be longer, and that they predict that there will be about half of the storms that are created out over the ocean, okay, will turn into major storms. They're not saying that that necessarily will be a major storm on land, because many hurricanes, tsunamis, swirling clouds of water don't actually make it to land. So it's not necessarily dangerous for us, but we do have to say like, ooh, it's problematic, okay? So, and also in Siberia, I know you're like, what? Yeah, it's a real place. In Siberia, which is now a part of Russia, there is a part of the permafrost that is melting. And so people have been able to study, like, what was the earth like when this originally froze, but also the fact that it is melting now illustrates that our climate is just getting warmer. It's getting warmer and warmer, and we're not doing anything huge about it around the world. And even though I'm talking about it and I'm in the US, the places that have been suffering the most are the continent of Africa and the continent of Eurasia. Okay, on the European side, you know, they had their big old heat wave last year. Woo! And then on the Asia side, yeah, there have been a number of days that are very hot, and there has been more heat exhaustion happening in those areas. And then I even heard in Mexico, just south of us, there are monkeys falling out of trees because of heat exhaustion. Now they are being picked up and taken and given little bottles and being nursed back to health. But damn, it ain't even hot yet. We ain't even in the hottest part of the year yet. We barely started June. So there's that. There was another climate report that basically said by 2050, yeah, y'all, 2050, so we got 10 more years in 2040, that we're going to have an extreme heat belt in the U.S. and that the hottest part of this belt will be Miami-Dade County in Florida. For anyone who doesn't know Florida that well, that is one of its blackest counties, one of the blackest counties in the U.S. And it's already not great. And guess what? They're going to have at least 3 days where the heat index will reach 125 degrees Fahrenheit. And yes, for my people that are listening in other places, no, I'm not converting that to Celsius, but you know it's hot as hell. You know it's hot. Basically, and then within the articles that I was reading, they were like, yeah, our electrical grid can kind of make it. However, the problem is climate change itself and its effect on the grids. So flooding the electrical grid because of all of these doggone rains and possibly hurricanes. So yeah, the extreme rain, extreme wind, extreme dryness, those things they're saying are the biggest threats to our electrical grid. Now, 20 years ago, y'all might remember we had a big old electrical outage across much of the Northeast. It included Ohio. It definitely got to Michigan, and it was in Minnesota, but we had it a little shorter than other folks. It was scary, and there were people that didn't have power for 5 days. Now, of course, there are people in the world that live without power all the time, but relative in the U.S., very rare. And so, 5 days without power, yeah, all your food does spoil. No, you ain't got no type of air conditioning. And these are definitely first world problems, but guess what? The heat is coming for the first world, girl. It's a whole full swirl. They coming to get us. Okay, so there's that. We also have to protect our electrical grids from white supremacists. On more than one occasion, there has been one time it was against the LGBTQ folks, and I want to say it was somewhere in Maryland, but I'll look it up and I'll tell y'all next time. But this man attacked the electrical grid because this one small town was going to have a drag show, all the anti-drag stuff. And then there was a white supremacist in Ohio just a week or two ago that was going after the electrical grid because he thought once the lights went out, I guess that it would start a race war. I don't know. Whenever people start talking race war, I'm like, well, what you think is going to happen? Okay, white people have this dream of a race war happening like all the time. One, I don't think it's gonna happen, but I'm not gonna say never. But it's gonna take more than just not having electricity. One, because America's so segregated, we don't even live near each other. Now, I happen to live in white Chicago, but this ain't with the kind of people that own guns. You know what I mean? I don't think the first thing they're gonna do is turn on me just because the lights is off. I just don't get it. But I have to remember, like, these people are illogical and weird. And also, I think like most people of color understand like we're not in the majority. Now come 2040 it's gonna be a different story, but right now we not in the majority. And also, I don't know if you all have ever really checked, but there's plenty of people of color that are for white supremacy. Diamond and Silk, one of them passed away, but I can't remember which one. Anybody holding them blacks for Trump signs, like what? And we know the Latino community got some white supremacy all up and through it. So it's like there's plenty of people of color that are going to join on the white side. That don't bode well for the rest of us. It don't bode well. But the other thing though is that, like, you know, people of color, we just keep surviving. So this idea that you're gonna just extinguish us, y'all already have treated us poorly and we still here. We still get horrible medical care, and guess what? We still here. Okay, not to say those things should continue, they really should not, but y'all, we here, we surviving. Anyhow, I just want to say, like, environmentally, especially going through menopause during this global climate crisis is really interesting, partially because I basically live at the same longitude. I live basically at the same longitude I did when I was a kid. So I have been saying to people, and people have been looking at me crazy, that it's hotter. It's definitely hotter than 20 years ago. No, I did not live in Chicago, so I didn't even have the lake breeze, okay? I live by nasty piece of Huron River. But yeah, it's just hotter than it used to be. And anyone who tells you differently is living in a fantasy world. It's gonna be hotter this year than it was last year. And it's gonna be hotter than the year before that. And it's like, yes, we are acclimating to it, but there will be a point where it will affect the systems that we live with, okay? Because they were designed to be with a cute little 60, 70 degrees year round, and we're getting, yeah. So anyhow, even with Miami-Dade County, going back to that, having 3 days of 105, that means the rest of the region will also have days where it will feel like 100 degrees. Like there'll be at least 20 days of feeling like 100 degrees. And if you've ever been in 100 degrees, you'll know insufferable. Okay, you're trying anything to cool down. Well, at least I am. And it's just tough. It's tough going through it with the hormone change at the same time. And the fact that it's only gonna get hotter, I'm like, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man. So it just definitely reminds me of that cartoon with the two frogs that are in the boiling pot, where one is saying, you know, this is warming up in here, yes, enjoying the temperature, and the other one getting cooked. And he like, girl, we is getting cooked. I'm the one yelling cook, but I'm also not jumping out the thing. So I got to figure out what is the way for me to jump out. No, we all have to work for there to be some kind of solutions. We need to push back on industrial waste and overuse of plastic. Also, every single one of us in the sound of my voice, if you're in the United States, you live near uncontained toxic waste. Almost everyone in the US does. So it is just, it's not someone else's problem, and it's definitely not a problem for future generations. It's a problem for this one. We're talking about anywhere between 25 and 15 years where it is going to be unbearably hot. And it's just really weird to me that there aren't like articles every day. Now, I will say I am reading a climate newsletter called Heated. I really love it. It does keep me informed. They do have a little positive spin. They're always talking about what it is we can do, and focusing on, they focus a lot on big oil. Okay, woo! And even with the few declarations that we've made, we've also in the US made things easier for oil manufacturers. And it's like that directly goes against what we're trying to do. And as far as living in the US, there's literally been nothing done about climate change. Like, there's no call for it. There's no one trying to do a big moonshot. We have emission standards for our cars now, but other than that, ain't nobody checking in on nothing. And they just like, y'all get your air conditioners ready. And it's like, that's also not helping because it's producing more heat, even as I very happily have an air conditioner there that is not on. Anyhow, whenever I bring this up, you know, with friends, people are turned off. They're like, girl, and wait, huh? And I'm like, we can't talk about it? It's just like, the answer is no. People are turned off. So I guess I'm just the menopausal canary in the coal mine. I don't know, but it's weird. Okay, let me go on to something that's almost happy. Almost, but not all the way. And that's television. You know, I'm beginning to my trash. I just recently started watching The Valley. It's just a weird show where regular people interact with Jax and Kristen Doty from Vanderpump Rules. And Vanderpump Rules, for those that don't know, is basically a show that started out with people in their 20s, their mid-20s, late 20s, and they were working at a bar and they were drinking themselves silly. And the reason why the show started was because one of the servers, I believe it was Sheena Shea, had slept with Eddie Ciprian.